There are two different types of approaches, in my opinion, on how to work for sale by owners. One of them is what I call pop-in, non-pre-qualified appointment to where you're doing your elevator pitch. Once you get into the house, you're not prepping and stuff like that. And then the other, of course, is your pre-qualified appointment. The most amount of people, you're going to take a ton of calls. You're going to have a ton of those conversations. For me, it feels a lot more powerful when I've sat with them. They have physical information from me. They know me. You know what I mean? When I'm following up, I imagine that has a lot more weight than somebody who is just really, really good on the phone, but they've never met this person.
Welcome one and welcome all to Real Kool Talk. We're your hosts, coaches Hine and Kristen Cronin, and we're about to share keen observations of life by real estate people for real estate people. Let's go.
In New Orleans, and their Vietnamese food down here is so good. Like, I'm talking next.
Wait a minute. Time out. You're in New Orleans and we're talking about Vietnamese food. We're not talking about Cajun.
Yes, and I learned the whole history of why there is such an amazing Vietnamese population down here. My brother-in-law told me this the other night because I said, I'm in Detroit and we have a Vietnamese population and the food's delicious, but when I come down here, it is just so good. And I'm so excited.
I wouldn't even know what to compare it to. We have some restaurants here where you have the staples, right? But I don't know even what to compare it to. I don't know what cities have good Vietnamese food. So now when I go to New Orleans, immediately I'm going to want to have the food of the people. I'm going to want to have the Cajun. I'm going to want to have the gumbo. I'm going to want to have the po' boys, right? That's what I'm going to want. But now you're saying, don't do that. Go to Vietnamese foods.
So many cultures in New Orleans and delicious. It's a melting pot of food. Southern California, I feel like is very similar too. Different, but a lot of cultures creating this melting pot of food.
Word.
I want to know how the baby was first.
He's good.
Cute, and I'm enjoying all of his social media pictures.
He just learned how to do Raz. He's every time he discovers a new part, like a new sound or a new part of his body, he obsesses with it. Like a few weeks ago, he discovered his feet. So now he's just grabbing his feet all the time. And just not even a few days ago, he discovered he can do raspberries. So of course you mimic him and he just thinks it's so funny. He thinks he's a comedian now. What are we talking about today? This is an exciting day near and dear to my heart. So what are we talking about today?
We're talking FSBO'S, for sale by owner. Why do people think they're going to sell their own house unrepresented? It was always mind-boggling to me.
I don't know, but the funniest part about FSBO'S is how you pronounce the acronym FSBO, because every time I look at a transcription, it spells it differently. And right now the live transcription is spelling FSBO'S, FIZZBOSE.
FSBO'S, y'all.
FSBO'S, like Bose, the speaker brand. Oh, hint, they might be a sponsor for us. FSBO'S, right? FSBO, for sale by owner. And we're talking to a special guest who's going to talk to us about the strategy of using for sale by owner homes as a lead source. So tell us about your guest, Kristen.
So he is a very good friend of mine. He has an amazing team. I think there's some unique things about his team and business model that he does. So I'm hoping we can kind of talk about some of those today. He's got a really great system. He's got a lot of great operational stuff, foundational pieces, and the way that he runs his team. And he also utilizes ISAs at a very high level in a in-person and in a virtual capacity. So I think he's got some great tactics around multiple things that I hope we have time to get into today.
All right. Really that speaks volumes to me. And I'm hoping that one of my agent clients that is that I started coaching several months ago joins in on this call, because he has virtual assistants calling his for sale by owner and expired leads.
He also has really great farming strategies. I mean, I remember talking to him one time and we were talking about agent lead gen strategies. And he was like, I don't like to call anybody I know. And I'm thinking like his whole business model is built on calling people he doesn't know. I mean, he has a legacy business it's built. He's taken a long time to build these different farming strategies and he just kills it.
Mhm.
He has an exceptional organization.
I'm going to want to ask him more about that. I think that it's
Mhm.
very common for realtors to, which is funny because it's the reverse of what would seem logical to non-real estate people, right? Is you get into the business and then you want to talk to people that you don't know, and you're more comfortable and confident talking to strangers than like at an open house, for example, right? Where they're coming to you. It's not exactly a cold lead.
Mhm.
You're sitting in an open house. People would rather do that than talk to the people that already know them, like them, and trust them. What's interesting to me is you're telling me that Matt has built a business on calling strangers, people that he doesn't know already, but have raised their hand because they're for sale by owner, have raised their hand because they actually have a need. Does he call anybody that he knows? That's what I'm going to want to know. Does he have any sort of database strategy where he's talking to the people that do already know, like him, and trust him?
Yeah, I don't know the answer to that either, but he's been in business for so long. I think his business is probably diverse at this point, right?
Mhm.
So, I know that he's still running very specific and consistent strategies. And when we always talk about like when are agents successful at the things, it's the ones that pick their lane and do it really well. I mean, we see it literally every week. And I think the FSBO topic is unique right now and kind of in this series that we've been talking about, because when we talked to Fritz a couple weeks ago, he had talked about creating shadow inventory lists based on
Yes.
FSBOs and expireds. So we're circling back around to how FSBOs are woven in.
This is a topic that a lot of agents are highly curious about, especially right now. So I'm super pumped to have this conversation because we haven't actually had this topic done yet, even as we've been having these mastermind calls prior to us recording them and making them public. So that's what makes
Mhm.
this topic very exciting for me.
Thanks for everybody joining us today. I'm super excited about today because I have one of my great friends on. Matt Belanger is joining us today, and he's going to tell us a little bit about his different business models, kind of some of the foundational pieces of what he's done to be successful. And I'm super grateful. Thanks, Matt, for joining us today.
Oh, no, it's good to be here.
So tell us a little bit about you, a little bit about how long you've been in business, what your team look like, kind of anything you want to share with us to intro.
Okay. So really quickly, I've been, this is, I think, my 22nd or 23rd year in the business. Primarily, I've been a solo agent. In 2010, it seems like I really got kind of serious about things. That's when I joined with Keller Williams and started looking at things a little bit more like a business and applying a lot of the models that they see in the Millionaire Real Estate Agent and all that. So it started to have some good growth. I always kind of focused on having at least 3 different pillars for my business and my income. The way I established those pillars was basically, in the beginning, I was just doing everything, right? Let me try a little bit of everything. And then I would periodically deal source. And then when I would establish which one of those areas was having the most success, then I would kind of brainstorm on that section and try to figure out how could I double down, how could I expand on what that source is. So after a short period of time, I established that I had 3 main pillars that were supplying the majority of my business. One of them was my sphere, of course. One of them was my farm. And then the other was prospecting. And basically, when I say prospecting, the only thing that I really worked was for sale by owners. Right. So with that model, I rather quickly added a couple administrative people. I wanted it to be very, very clear when I wasn't working. Right. And I think the best way to do that is to have someone else take that 80% off of your plate. When that's gone, it's either I'm doing things that are going to make me money or I'm doing nothing. Right. And if you spend 3 days doing nothing, don't expect to get a check. right? Real estate agents a lot of the times get caught being busy doing the 80%, and then they look up and they go, wow, I have nothing pending. I have no money coming in, but I've been so busy. Well, you're busy doing the wrong stuff, right? So as a single agent, I did get all the way up to right around 25 million as a single agent with 2 administrative assistants. That was on about 100 units. So I'm not in an area that is selling $1 million houses or anything. Average sales price was probably right around 300. From there, I started to explore moving more into the team realm. So into the team realm, Joe Delia was one of my mentors building the team, and he had me lay a lot of foundations that cost some money and made me uncomfortable in the very beginning, but they all turned out to be really, really solid and sound advice. So one of the things that I did do, along with getting different lead sources to bring in those leads, is I immediately went and got an ISA, an inside sales agent. So the way my business kind of works now, at least for that portion, is the leads come through, they go to my ISA, who is just phenomenal, right? He goes through, calls all of these different people. He's doing a couple different things. One, he's trying to get through the many to find the ones that are legit, right? The other thing that he's doing is he's keeping them warm and nurturing them, right? And what I was finding when I first started developing the team before I had that ISA position was you bring in someone new and your conversion ratios were heavily affected on that person's ability to convert this lead from nothing into wanting to go look at a house, and then having enough motivation to stick with it, to follow up and actually stay there if it required 2 or 3 months of nurturing, right? Those were the holes in my boats. So what I did was take those off of the agent's plate and put them on the ISA's plate. Now that that's their number one focus, it really brought everything together. So portion that the agent would have earned off of that lead, 10 points of that gets chopped off, goes to the ISA. I give a small base to him, and he's doing really, really well, really likes his job. Everybody's happy there. So right now, I would say that these leads that we're purchasing is one of the pillars. My sphere is one of the pillars. We're all still a heavily prospecting office, and in the farm.
That's awesome. I think it's amazing that you basically buckled into the Emria models and used that and scaled it. It's textbook. I mean, Lucas and I always talk about when you guys come on, the agents that are crushing have picked your lane. You've executed at a super high level. You leverage very well. And I love that you say that sometimes you have to get uncomfortable in order for that growth to happen, because it is that most uncomfortable, hardest part to go through to be able to step up in that growth. And that you found the gaps and you filled them. So just to get a little more clarity, when you started as a solo agent, 25 million, 100 units, 2 admins, when did you start to build the team? Like, how long were you in solo with the admins before you started to scale it?
So, I mean, even though I've been licensed since 2001, I really look at things starting for me in 2010. I was a kid before that, just looking for beer bunny, whatever. I wasn't very organized. In 2010 is when I really started to get serious about things. I had my first admin in 2011. So I jumped right to that. MREA says that's the fastest way to triple your GCI, and it is 100% true, right? Mm-hmm. So then I got the second admin probably around 12 because I needed an inside admin to handle all that type of stuff. And then I found that I was still doing $10 an hour work back then, driving and picking up signs and putting out lock boxes and filling flyer boxes and dropping off booties and doing all of those type of things. So we kind of recreated the second admin to do updating the listings. I actually went and bought my own really nice camera. I bought my own Matterport camera. I bought my own drones. And I did that just long enough to be able to train an hourly person to do that. So I was able to off route a lot of these marketing pieces for a fraction of what a photographer would cost, right? So I ran that model from, I would say, 2010 to around 2022. The beginning of 2022 is when I started piecing together the team. And as I mentioned, I already had the administrative part there. I added, I had 2 agents, had the lead flow come in, and in a very short period of time, I would say within probably 5 months, I had the ISA piece there, and it started to look kind of like how it looks today. I have, it's not like we are a massive size team by any means. I think we have 7 or 8 real estate agents. We have added another ISA person. We have 2 other administrative people, and we are pacing for around 40 million. In the growth period of this, the first year running the team, I went from maybe right around that 20-25 million to 27, which doesn't sound like a great jump, but my particular, or my contribution to that went down to 10. So I was able to personally sell 10 instead of 25, and the team was right up there picking up that 17. Now, I probably this year am going to be around 15 of my own personal production, but the team is picking up, what is that, $25,000 now, or $25 million at that point.
Mm-hmm. When you talk about and I know we're FSBOs today, so I want to get to that strategy, but I think you have so many unique things that are so applicable to what we see in our agents' growth right now. When you talk about the places where you were most uncomfortable in the beginning, what were those things? Like, what were the places
or the building beginning?
When you were building, or, what makes you most uncomfortable? What were you so resistant to that you put in that allowed you to scale, and how'd you do it? How'd you get over the mind?
I think that the number one thing is you got to take a step back to take 2 steps forward. And that, like, I'm very impatient, right? When you do my KPAs and stuff like that, I'm not a very patient person at all. I don't want to wait to build anything to make money. I was always just like, I want to make as much money this year as possible, right? And when you have to take a lot of your focus off of generating your own business and running your own thing, a lot of time that doesn't bear any fruit for a while goes into building all of these different structures, spending money on leads, spending money on other administrative people, all in the hopes that one day it will return. So, that first year, maybe year and a half, was not pleasant. It cost me a good amount of money. I can see why a lot of people don't jump right necessarily to that. I'm sure that there are cheaper ways to go ahead and set it up. But for me, it seemed like I was cutting a lot of checks and waiting for things to kind of come through. At this point, it is definitely something that I would say has been worth it, even though I'm still doing like 15 million or so on my own. I probably work about half as much as I was working when I was doing around 20 to 25 million, and I make more money.
Hey, Matt,
Awesome.
because I know we're going to get into the strategy of the FSBO, right? The for sale by owner.
Right.
Talk to us, because early on you said that was one of your primary pillars, right? That helped you get to the success level that you are today, to help build where you were at. We talked to our agents a lot about staying in their lane, right? And picking the strategy that, I mean, for lack of a better way to put it, brings you the most joy or excites you the most. So if you're like, I want to call for sale by owners and expired listings, and I want to door knock, okay, that chase might be the thing that excites you, right? And even with the things that bring you joy and the things that excite you, there will be ups and downs. Talk to us a minute about what it takes to persevere through those ups and downs, through the ebbs and flows of picking that lane and staying in it.
So, I mean, I'll be honest with you when it comes to that. So in my first half of my career, before I hit that Keller Williams 2010 mark, I bumped my head a lot. Obviously, my uncle owned Remax. My cousins worked there and stuff. When I got over and started working with them, the first thing that they did was show me how to work for sale by owners, right? So back then, we're driving around, we're looking for those newspaper boxes, we're clipping the newspaper ads out, we're posting them onto an index card so we can see if they did any price reductions. We're calling off of these after we create these tickler filers. And then in 2010, when I really wanted to get serious and build things, I mean, to be real with you, it was all I knew. that was it. That was the only thing that anyone ever taught me. The only thing that I had any type of relative success with. For me, what I liked about it is it gives you a tremendous amount of business energy, right? When you are going, and you have to go on a lot of them, right? There are people that I talk to and I go over doing for sale by owners with them, and 3 months goes by and they go on 3 and go on 4. To give you an idea, I restructured my schedule when I was really working those, and I went on 12 a week. Now, there may not be enough for you to satisfy that right now, but 3 a day, 4 days a week. I only wanted to work Monday through Thursday. So it was like, it was on. I hit my 50 something hours or whatever in those 4 days. And I had a morning and I had an afternoon and then I had an evening one every day. So you have to imagine if I'm doing 48 appointments a month, how many months is it going to take you if you do 2 a month to reach the ratios that are going to make it worth it for you? Now, me doing 48 sits a month, that doesn't mean that I was listing 20 houses. No, I mean, it took like 48 for me to get 5 or 6. So you have to look at and I felt like I was really good at it. I spent a lot of time trying to be really good at it. So if you're not good at it, your ratios are going to be even worse than this, right? But the thing that I liked about it was, like I said, that business energy. You can't go on 3 appointments a day and not have somebody sound like they're going to do business with you, right? To have that hope, to have that, oh, in the next couple days and the next couple weeks, I'm going to have this one, I'm going to have this one, I'm going to have this one, that one, that just charges you and pushes you from behind because you feel like, you're counting the money before it even happens. Right. And then that's just kind of pulling you through. The other thing that's great about going on such an excessive amount of appointments is I could save my listing appointment hanging upside down, half asleep, whatever, half in the bag. I could go through it without even looking at it because I've gone through it so many times. And what it did is if I had a past client or a farm lead or somebody that was a listing appointment that came up, I was sharp. I was crisp. A lot of the agents that I talk with, they practice, they do their listing presentations. Once they feel comfortable with it, they stop practicing. And then they don't have a live role play event for a listing appointment for 3 months. And now they're rusty again. And then they just keep doing that over and over. They settle for that good enough. So if you're not going to go on all of these appointments through for sale by owners and do it in front of real people, then you really should be practicing it every day.
Amazing.
Like excessively.
Business energy. I want the audience to hear 2 things there is that the act of going on the listing appointments gave business energy, right? Even something, you didn't even say this, but what I heard, because I imagine myself going through this exact same scenario, and also from somebody that worked for sale by owners and expired listings and all the cold leads, it's that constant rejection that gives energy to go to the next one. Awesome. Right. I got rejected 4 times in a row and now I'm going to the next one. Right. Yeah. Second thing I want to really echo is, oh my God. And then I just lost it. The practice portion of it, Matt. Thank you for the practice portion of it. We need to hear that, guys. We need to hear that loud and clear, that practice portion of it. You don't just practice when you got a game coming up. You practice every single day leading up to the game. Okay, I'm done. Kristen, you go.
That is crucial because we hear that all the time. Will was on when he was doing his golden letter strategy. What did he do? 5 days a week. He did scripts every day at a super high level. So I agree with you. I mean, if you're doing it here and there, you're rusty by the time you do it again. And you got to restart the whole process over.
It is just absolutely crazy to me to think of all of the effort and time that goes into getting an appointment and then you blow it because you didn't prep right, because you didn't practice, because you didn't have your pitch down. That might have been a 1 in a million shot, and that could have led to all types of other business and just not being ready for it. And you blew it. And you might have spent all of this time to just get that one person to answer their phone and follow up with them forever. And then they finally let you in their house and you're not even ready for them.
Yeah, I mean, show up every day like it's the Super Bowl. That makes me so pumped. I wake up ready to climb walls every morning. So I'm like, this is that energy. Find a way to cultivate it for yourselves for sure. Okay, let's talk about kind of your start to finish strategy for this. Tell us kind of how you did it.
Okay, so basically there are two different types of approaches in my opinion on how to work for sale owners. Okay, one of them is what I call pop-in. Right, this is a non-pre-qualified appointment to where you're doing your elevator pitch. Once you get into the house, you're not prepping and stuff like that. And then the other, of course, is your pre-qualified appointment. Right, so when I talked about going on 12 a week, those were pop-ins. Now, I liked this option, and it seems like a lot of people don't do it this way, because I look at it like a funnel. All right, so when you're a for sale by owner, the top part of the funnel, the most amount of people are going to call you. Right, the most amount of people, you're going to take a ton of calls, you're going to have a ton of those conversations. You start getting a little bit down into now let's say maybe 5 people actually get into the house. Right, and then out of those 5 people, maybe 3 nail it, and out of those 3 people, maybe 1 follows up long enough to actually get the listing. Right, so I feel like I'm just trying to move a little bit closer, get more mind share. If I'm calling and following up, for me, it feels a lot more powerful when I've sat with them. They have physical information from me. They know me. You know what I mean? When I'm following up, I imagine that has a lot more weight than somebody who is just really, really good on the phone, but they've never met this person. Right, so I always elected to do the pop-in method. Now, if I went to a pre-qualified strategy, it was because I didn't have time for the pop-ins. If I wanted to,
really quick, break down what you mean versus pre-qualified with them and what's not pre-qualified. Explain to us a little bit about that.
All right, so a pop-in script can be as simple as you call them and you say, Hey, I'm calling about the house for sale on 123 Main Street. Is that still available? Okay, now that's always question number 1. You don't say, I'm a realtor, blah, 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 blah. And is it still available? All right, because once you tell them who you are, it's very easy to say the house is sold and I'm off the phone with you. What are you going to say back about that? Right, so you want to find out if it's available before they know who you are. So I'm calling about 123 Main Street. Is that still available? Great. My name is Matt Belanger. I work with a lot of buyers in the area. I noticed this house and I just wanted to see if I could come by and take a look at it. Right, now that's basic. That's the easiest pop-in script there is. Now I will tell you that this only works if you're first. Okay, you try to make that phone call when it's 1 p.m. and they've been out there since people have been calling them since 8. I don't care if you're calling them at 9:15. They've heard it 15 times. They've already shut the door. No one else is getting in. So Ricky Bobby, if you ain't first, you're last, right? If you can get through and you're one of the first calls, these people can't wait to have some stranger walk through their house. They got everything all staged and they're proud of their pictures. Let's get into this I'm a real estate agent thing. Come on over. All right, they can't wait. So that's kind of what your pop-in strategy is. Now, your pre-qualified strategy is exactly what it sounds like. And normally, if I was going to do that type of script, I'm going to start asking questions as if I'm asking questions for a buyer. And I just want to get them talking and I want them to get comfortable and I want them to bring their guard down. Hey, it looks like the house is up for $330,000. Is that still the price? Great. Would you say that you're negotiable with that? Is there any wiggle room or you think you're pretty firm? All right. Are you looking for any occupancy? I didn't see anything on here. Are your appliances included? Just bringing the guard down with really safe questions that they feel comfortable asking. And then you can move a little bit into, are you co-oping with agents that bring you a purchaser? Now be prepared for a lot of them to not know what this means and be ready to explain that. So typically when you list a house, there is a listing agent and there's a buyer's agent. Out of the listing commission, they offer out the buyer's agent commission. And, this is where 80% of your potential buyer pool is going to be. In this situation, you are effectively working as the listing agent. Are you still co-oping and trying to work with the other buyer's agents? Now, a lot of the times they will say, yes, I am willing to give that 3 points. Now, for me, it's not for everybody. If they say no, I pretty much end the combo right there. Great.
Why do you end the conversation? Why is it just stop there?
Because if they are so tight with their stuff that they won't give out even the 3, then I know it's going to be very difficult to get the 6. Now, I won't necessarily say that's it. I would probably follow up with something along the lines of, I imagine that there's a price that you're looking for to get out of the house. If you got that price, would you be willing to pay a fee? And some people don't look at it that way. If I got you your asking price, or if I got you over your asking price, would you pay this? But if it's just like, no, I'm not paying $1, your buyer can pay you whatever, that it's a filter for me to drop the people that I think are just unreasonable. Now, I don't necessarily throw them in the garbage can. I will follow up with them until that situation changes. Now, if I get through all of those questions and they're like, yes, I will. And the things I'm looking for is, oh no, I got a little bit of room to negotiate and I'll give 3%. There you go. You're there. So if you get in the house and you say, if I sell the house for you for your asking price, you don't pay anything. You were willing to come here. We've already made up the difference. Once they say that they're going to pay the 3 points, now we're only working on trying to overcome a 3-point delta instead of a 6. Right. And then it's just like, if I could show you a way that you could get more money by working with a real estate agent, would that be worth a 15-minute conversation? Great. Can I come by it at 2 or 3 or whatever? Now, they're going to rebut on different things, and you're going to have to kind of flex your real estate muscles a little bit on that. But ultimately, you're looking for them to say yes to that question. And now, when I'm going over there, I'm leading them to the kitchen table. They're expecting me to go over some semblance of a presentation. Now, the reason that I liked the pop-ins is because I can't tell you how many times people said, don't even come over here if you're going to try to list my house, and then I list their house. So I didn't want to exclude those people. And then, like I said, as far as the follow-up game, I thought moving down the filter was valuable.
Can you say that last part again? You said about popping in, even though you knew that you'd get rejected on the phone.
Yeah, well, they would straight up tell me, don't come over here if you intend to list my house. My neighbor's a real estate agent. They're over here all the time. My aunt does it, whatever. And then I list their house.
And then you list the house. That's what I wanted our audience to hear. You did it anyway, and then you listed the house.
Yeah. And when I would go to these appointments, even if it was one of those pop-ins, I would try to put in my head, they called me. They wanted me to come over and do this. And that, when I made that shift, a lot of the way I carried myself and the questions I asked, all of that changed. Right. So now I'm not shaking off of these people don't want me here. I'm bothering them. All of that stuff just goes away. And it's like, you called me. So I'm going to come over. I'm going to say, hey, how you doing? I'm going to let you walk me through the house. I'm going to pull your furnace filter out. I'm going to look behind your walls. I'm going to check this. I'm going to check that. I'm going to do all of the things that I would do if I was listing your house. I'm going to say, where are you moving? When do you need to be there? Blah, blah, blah. All of that type of stuff. And then I'm going to lead you over to the counter. And then I'm going to do my elevator pitch. Now, I tested back then. I used to actually do the pop-in with comparables. And what I found happened, at least back then, was everyone really bought into what I was saying. And I basically talked them into reducing their own price. Right. So they went from 300 down to 280. Oh, thank you so much, Matt. You made so much sense. Nobody explained the market like you. My house is under contract now. Congratulations. Right. So I don't do that anymore. Even on a regular listing appointment, there are people that are impatient and they want me to skip through my presentation and get right to talking about pricing. And I refuse to do that. You're going to listen to all of my value prop stuff as far as why you want me to do this for you and how I'm going to be able to sell it for more before I just tell you what the price is. Because if the price is not what you're interested in, then I've lost you. right? Or if it's the only thing that you're interested in, then they don't want to hear the rest of it. They're thinking the whole time of the price you said and not hearing anything else. So when I took that out, it cut down on paper, it cut down on prep time, it cut down on everything else. And you look at it as a two-step. Okay, so I'm bringing my folder over, I'm getting into the house, I'm acting as if they called me. When we're done, have you ever sold this house, sold a house on your own? No. Right? Or yes, I have. Well, great. I brought some information. You mind if I just go over it with you really quick? Now, my folder is split into two halves. One half is all of the things that I can give you to help you sell it on your own. Okay. And yes, it's made to confuse you to a certain degree, right? When it starts going over the complexities, I'm helping you, but I'm also probably making it seem like you don't want to get into all of that, right? The other half of it is what I would do for you if I was your real estate agent, right? So you go through all of that information and they go, well, what do you think of the price? Now, I'm not saying that I wouldn't take a quick little look so I would not seem like an idiot when I got over there. Oh, it looked like, but most of the time it was a generic line of, you seem like you're pretty close, but price is not something that that I just fly by the seat of my pants with. If you'd like me to do a formal analysis for you, we can look at appraised value, market value, and we can really dive in. And then that's my bait for the second appointment, right? I'm baiting them with the comparables. Worst case scenario, I bring you a lot of information. I teach you what exactly is going on in this house. So you're educated. If somebody tries to lowball you, you're going to have physical comparables that you can share them to support what you're trying to sell the house for, and so on and so forth. Worst case scenario, you're going to learn a lot more about how to do this on your own. We're, 15 minutes of your time. And then, but that gives me my in to go through my whole spiel. Make sense?
Yeah, I love this. I mean, I think there's some fine-tuned details that you do different or that I don't necessarily see all the time that probably is why you're so successful at that. Lucas, what are your thoughts or questions?
I have a lot more questions, and I want to be very respectful of your time, Matt. You said that it was okay to spill over about 5 to 7 minutes. Is that right?
Yeah, I mean, we can go another 10 or so if we need it. So
okay, great.
question.
So I actually want to ask a question that Mindy asked in the chat, and I think you're probably going to have a good answer for this, considering that I'm already thinking of like 10 answers that I have already. I just discovered a FSBO on Zillow, 30 days on market. But not uncommon, right? We see it for sale by owner. It's great. It's on the market more than average. Is he saying not to bother, or does he have a way to approach them? So are you saying don't bother with them, or is there a way to approach that person?
No, I would absolutely, that's one of the best times, right? That you have, I would say that you have in the first couple days of them going up, right? Because a lot of people don't want to do it. They just do it. And I hear people say, well, I just put it up like this because what if my neighbor walked over here with a big bag of cash after I just told you I was going to pay you, right? But they don't really want to go through the whole thing, right? They've quit before they even got there. And it's funny, when my uncle was teaching me about this, he always told me to look at their sign, right? There's a guy in Rochester right now that has a sign that a hurricane wouldn't blow over. He bought his own post. He's got a nice big metal sign that he probably had made and stuff like that. That guy's going down with the ship. He's for sale by owner for life, right? Now, if you see that flimsy $4 sign with the scrabbles of the Sharpie on it and stuff like that, that guy's half quit already. All right. So that you can get indicators from that. But these people, all they need is a little bit of nudge of logic on why they're doing things or approaching things backwards, and they're ready to come over. Now, the second window is once they bumped their head enough and they failed, because more likely than not, they think that they're failing because they're not you, when in actuality, it's probably just they're overpriced, right? But they're going to associate it with, well, I'm not reaching enough people, I'm not doing this, I'm not doing that, and I need a real estate agent, right? So one of the things when I would go, and I believe this, I try to be logical to reach people, but the way I look at it is they're doing it backwards. All right. You put your house on the market for sale by owner, you fail. All right. So now I'm doing reduction. I'm doing another reduction. I'm doing another reduction. I'm bringing in a discount broker. I'm bringing in a real broker, right? What's happening through this period? Your days in the market's going through the roof, right? That's your most valuable negotiating chip. The longer you're up, the more power you lose in the negotiation, right? So the other thing that is happening is people start wondering what's wrong with the house and everything else. But let's say that just for easy math, I'm at $220,000 or something like that. Once I reduce, now I brought my price down to $180,000, and I finally bite the bullet to hire a real estate agent, which means I immediately jump down another $10,000. If you think about it, I would throw everything but the kitchen sink at it first. Hire me at 220, okay? And if, let's just say that this doesn't work out, all right? I normally try to approach them with a reasonable length for an agreement. If it doesn't work out, you can fire me. You can fire me. The ghost of my advertisement is still there. Everybody that I called, everybody I told about your house, I can't erase that from their memory. And then you can fire me. You can make a price reduction, and you have not negatively impacted your bottom line. Now, what would you rather prefer? Go from 220, which is going to net you with a real estate agent, let's just say, I don't know, 205, right? If that doesn't work, you can go from your 220 down to 205 and fire me at the same time, and you're still at 205. Now, in reality, once they hire you and they start, they're not going to fire you to try to save it, but it just makes a lot more sense that way. Would you rather do it that way, or would you rather go from 220 down to 200, down to 280, and then hire a real estate agent, so now I'm down to 170? You're doing things backwards. Here's the other thing is, when you get down, let's say you go from 220 and now you're at 190, okay? If you sell that house, you're gonna go like this, oh my God, I'm awesome, I just did it. But you're gonna have no idea what money that you left on the table, right? You might have said, oh, at 190, I didn't pay a real estate agent. Woo, I'm awesome. But if you could have got 220 and netted 205, then you just screwed yourself. The only way to know that what you would have potentially lost is by doing the real estate agent portion first, right?
Makes total sense.
So,
and thank you for that, by the way. That was an incredible answer to a very important question, is at what point do we stop bothering? Another question just popped up. It said, would you offer to do a short exclusive right to sell, a shorter exclusive right to sell, in order to allow the market for an open house and see if we can sell it? If we don't sell it by the week after the open house, you can fire me. So sort of like saying, okay, my normal ERS is like 90 days, 120 days, but I'm going to offer you the chance to do a 30 to 60 day. And if I don't sell it, you have the open right to fire me. Is that a strategy you would go down?
I've done it for 10 days. In the market, I don't know what state everybody's in, but here stuff is not sitting around, right? If you put something up and it's priced relatively right, it should not go more than 10 days, right? Especially if you can squeeze any type of pre-marketing campaign. And this strategy is what you use on when you're the first person in the door, right? When you are the first person in the door and not a bunch of people have seen it, not a bunch of people have passed on it yet. Now, if it's been up for 30 days, I would not recommend this, because you're going to blow money on signs and photography and everything else. And the likelihood of you being able to get it sold in 10 days just by putting on the MLS and calling a couple people and making a Facebook post after they couldn't do it in 30 is not a gamble that I would take. But if it just hit and you look at it, you look at the house and you look at the price and you go, this thing's gonna be gone in a week, then you can use that strategy and say, listen, I'm going to do it for 10 days. What's the worst that can happen? I either get you the net that you're looking for, or you go right back to where we started. And I've even said, I'll even give you my pictures.
Wow.
I have a professional photographer come over. You can keep those, right? You shot the stuff that you have in there now with your iPhone, keep mine.
So you're even bypassing by saying, hey, I bring so much value to the table. any agent's going to come in and say, I bring value to the table because I hire a professional photographer. You're saying I do so much more than that, that I'm even willing to give you these professional photos that cost me several $100s.
We used to run around and make flyers for people. You know what I mean? Like all types of stuff. Back when you had time,
Mhm.
right? When you had time, and these people would go up, and even our average sales was 50 days, right? So theirs was like 70. You had time to really build that relationship and be loving while they are bumping their head and falling right into your arms, right? So we were doing all types of stuff like that.
Love that. I want to
I know.
ask, and go ahead, Kristen.
Well, do you have, I have like, I want to know what happens. Follow-up is such a huge thing for us. What's your follow-up when you have the no?
What's my follow-up when I have the no?
Yeah. Because there's
So
plenty of people
I
that say no,
always,
then what?
so I always called them on a Monday. And the reason is because they had a very deflating open house, more than likely. So the person that had in the chat 30 days on there, they're like, this is the last one. If it doesn't happen this one, I'm going to have to re-strategize, right? They get all ready. They bake cookies so their house smells good. They spent 3 hours cleaning. They sent the dogs to the neighbors. Nobody came, right? Or somebody came and offered them a ridiculously low amount. So when you can put your cape on and call them Monday morning, right when they're down like that, or even Sunday night, then that's a good time for you to follow up. And hey, how's your week in real estate? I know that we just pended 4 houses. This market is crazy, right? Yeah, we got over asking on this one. This one went this week. Oh, you didn't sell yet. You know, why do you think that is? What are you doing right now to market the house? And a lot of times the answer is nothing. And that's one of the things, like I have a handful of different analogies or whatever that I'll use, but I'll say for example, when they're trying to bypass the commission, right? I'll use an analogy. Let's say that we were all in the boardroom at Pepsi, right? And sales are down for the first quarter. Who's going to raise their hand and say, let's cut our marketing budget? Right? And that's in essence what they're doing. The only thing that can help increase that number is the first thing that they want to chop off, and you can't cut yourself to profit really at that point. I forgot what I was saying before that, but yeah, so you're just checking up with them, sold a bunch of houses and stuff. And then there's always a time, it doesn't matter what time of year, you have to hit some urgency buttons, right? So right now, obviously, oh my gosh, it's spring. You got 5 months worth of winter inventory of people who have just been waiting to put their mulch out, stain their deck, and do that type of stuff. Then everybody and their brother's going to drop their house on the market. Once that happens, our list of sales price ratios are going to widen a little bit because there's no corresponding influx of buyer activity. What are you doing? You're wasting the best time that you have all year, right? If you are in the summer, oh my gosh, kids go back to school soon. Once they go back to school, everybody's going to downshift and nobody's going to be looking anymore once you're in September. Oh gosh, you got a month or two, and then you're going to be right on top of Thanksgiving. Then you're going to be right on top of Christmas. And then you're going to be right, there's always a reason to hurry up. And you have to, these people think that they have months to just figure it out. And they go, what do they say all the time? I want to try it for a couple weeks. I want to try it for a couple months before I do this. You have to explain to them, because they are not educated in that, on how that's going to cost them a lot of money. And those are some of those hot buttons that you have to push. Just remember, if you feel like if you're feeling defeated, just understand that these people don't want to do this. They're ready to quit. They just want someone to tell them why, so they feel good about it.
Ricky, I love your comment. And so Matt, Ricky says, I have a FSBO that stole my yard sign from my listing, and it's been a FSBO for 233 days. And I'm wondering if I should call them to see if I could get the listing. What would you do?
Hey, try it. The other ones that I really like is, it's funny, my mom used to call and she'd be like, oh, there's a for sale owner over here. And I'd be like, shh, that's enough, Mom. I'm watching all of the systems. I know which ones are coming up. But occasionally if you are actually checking, like, is this guy that's 200 some days, is he on the, is he even on Zillow? Because some people just put the sign outside and they don't put it anywhere. You know, there was a house in my old sub that was up back, I mean, this was 15 years ago or whatever, but it was up for $250,000. And it was up, I drove by that sign for 3 weeks. And then I called it. It wasn't on Zillow or anything. I took that listing over and sold it for 270 in like the first week, just by telling anyone that it was there. So I would definitely try to approach that person. Honestly, if that is a question for me, approach everybody until you feel like you are an absolute expert at it. And once you get even better at it, it won't matter why they're not doing it, because you're going to be able to talk them out of it. So there's no downside in just approaching everybody.
Mm. Ricky said, you said they're using iRealty, a flat fee brokerage, and they now have it on the MLS.
So those you can't mess with, right?
Mhm.
You can't call and try to get business, even if it's a $500 listing that they put on the multi-list. Our multi-list prohibits, and I don't know if everybody's in different states or something like that, but our multi-list prohibits you trying to generate business from someone else's contract client.
Yep. Ricky, keep an eye on it though. That those places, they've been around for a very, very long time. And if they were so great, they would have taken over our jobs already. And the truth is, they're a triple P. They put place and pray. They put a sign in the yard, they put it on the MLS, and then they pray it sells. Just keep an eye on it, because if he didn't sell it by owner, it's probably going to expire.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And mail them some stuff. I would just mail them some stuff. You can't call, but you can mail them, I believe.
With a
Check
little
me if I'm wrong.
disclosure at the bottom that says, if your house is listed on the MLS, this is not intended to be a solicitation. Please do it in a TCPA compliant way. There is my legal speak.
There you go. You do that
Matt,
for all of us.
definitely want to be respectful of your time here. I was
I'm
hoping
okay,
to get your imparting advice on at least one thing that actually doesn't have much to do with FSBOs, but actually how you built from the strategies that you went hard in the paint in for so many years, right? You said that you went from being a solo agent to having multiple assistants, and that's how you grew by, I heard you say, you didn't say it directly, I heard you say by focusing on your 20%, right? What do you say to the agents that are trying to fast track that process by instead going around the assistant route and just trying to hire buyer's agents off the bat? What do you say to those agents?
I guess it depends on what your production is. And I don't know if this is an apples and oranges comparison, but what I see a lot of is someone who's never prospect and tries to hire an ISA. And for me, I have a big problem with that, because you don't know what is a good conversion rate. You can't teach them what to say. You don't know if they're any good. And you just like, well, I don't want to do this. I'm not good at this. I'm going to hire someone else. Thinking that that's going to be a successful venture, I think is a big mistake, right? You really have to do these things on your own before you can bring value to someone else. If you're going to just go hire buyer agents, then really you need to have so many leads that you can't work them, or you want to be a lead distribution company that you don't personally sell real estate. But in those situations, I feel like you're still going to have to work them long enough. So when they come back and they go, these leads are all garbage. Oh, I can't get anything off of these, or I'm having this problem or that problem. As their team leader, you're going to have to be able to guide them through what those issues are. And if you've never done it, it's going to be incredibly difficult for you to do that. Now, if you're not in a financial place for you to get a assistant right out the gate, what I did even when I had an assistant is forever, I had an actual paper planner that I put all of my schedules into and stuff like that. And then I put 3 different colors, right? So everything that I wrote into my time blocks, I had colors for. And if it was prospecting, going on an appointment, or showing houses or whatever, those were yellow, right? If I was working on inputting a listing, or going to something like that, then it might be green. And if it was a personal thing, then it was a different color. And when I looked back, like Gary always says, my month at a glance or week at a glance, whatever, I'm looking at the colors. Now, if I look at my week and I see that 70% of it is yellow, then I know that I had a productive week. The purpose of having that assistant is to make sure that you're doing the 20%. You don't want to have an assistant just so you can go play golf, right? If you're not going to fill the time that they take off of your plate with dollar productive activities, then you're going to be wasting your money. And you have to build that habit and do that, and then realize that it's successful. And then once you realize, wow, if this is all I had to do, I would make way more money, then you get that person to come in. But it's just really, you got to time block and make sure you have an unfair share of your time going to that 20%. You'd be surprised how little effort it takes to get a deal to the closing table successfully. And people spend way too much time on the green highlighted areas, the pending stuff.
Yes. Time blocking, leverage, and money, my favorite ever topics. Yes. But the color code time blocking is real. My Google Calendar reflects, and it tells me how many hours I've been in what activity. And that's how I know. Same if I've had a week. So
okay, Kristen, going on a tangent of time blocking. We don't have enough time for that today.
We'll see it's not in my time blocks. Matt, thank you so much for joining us. We'd love to have you back another time. And I think it's been super valuable and helpful today. So we appreciate you.
Yes. No, absolutely. Thank you so much, guys.
Thanks again. Appreciate you.
Yeah. Good to
happy Friday, guys.
Yes.
What'd you say?
So good to meet Lucas via Zoom.
Yes.
Yep.
Yeah.
We'll hopefully we'll have to meet each other at one family reunion, mega camp or whatever. So if you're ever there, would love to actually meet you in person. Anybody here on the call, if you guys recognize Matt, just give him a holler, just say hello and say, hey, I saw you on Lucas and Kristen's podcast. And yeah, that's the point of doing this stuff, is to meet amazing people that are doing amazing things. And we cannot say thank you enough for your time.
Thanks, guys. Have an amazing weekend. Happy Friday, y'all. We'll see you next week.
Bye. And that is a wrap, folks. Thank you so much for listening to Real Kool Talk. If you like what you heard, please like and subscribe. And please leave us a rating and review. We want to hear your feedback, as we thrive on feedback. It is always the breakfast of champions. And now for the legal stuff. This podcast is for general informational purposes only. The views, thoughts, and opinions of the hosts and the guests represent those of the hosts and the guests, and not Keller Williams Realty International, its affiliates, MAPS Coaching, or its affiliates, and should not be construed as financial, economic, legal, tax, or other advice. This podcast is provided without any warranty or guarantee of its accuracy, completeness, timeliness, or results from using the information. That's all, folks. See ya.
So cute.
Me doing baby impressions is highly unflattering. It's like, maybe I should cut that out.
That's your blooper.
Yeah, that's my blooper reel.
Okay.
You just did this. So are you going to an Italian restaurant?
This is the sign language for food, like eat.
Oh,
He's on the phone.
Glasses are fabulous, girl. Come on.
Thanks. I can't see because I'm getting old.